Greetings, everybody. Ed here with another episode of Nutrition Made Simple. You know, we're doing a 4-part series, and this will be part number 2 of how to increase your health span, longevity, and quality of life. And our first one was on toxic overload and its negative effects. And I gave some very simple tips on how little choices in your stores you shop at can change the game as cumulative toxins. We need to think about that for ourselves, especially for our children. But today we're going to talk about food's impact on life and your blood chemistry. You know, I always look at and think of health like a continuum. Let's say we had a huge yardstick and there's 0 on this side and 100 here. On that is our level of health in our life. 0 may be our death, and 100 is the most optimal moment we've ever had. They say that being about 13 years old probably is when our system is metabolically the most optimal, with everything clicking on all cylinders, so that if we get sick, we recover fast, we get injured, the same thing, but also our metabolic function's very, very efficient, from hormones to digestion to brain chemistry. And, you know, for years it was always, well, if you have a problem, it's your genes. You know, it's just your parents and grandparents you inherited. Well, you know, the Genomic Project, which was done many years ago, found that we have between 20 and 25,000 genes. And, you know, a simple acorn worm has 70% of the exact genes that we do. A chimpanzee has 98% of the same genes that we do. And the hope of all that study was that we could manipulate these genes so that disease could be reduced significantly. Almost none of that has come true because it's not that easy. When they manipulated genes, it created havoc on one side and miracles on the other, but you can't have that. Well, what we've learned, though, is something called epigenetics. What's above the gene level is what affects it, turns it on or turns it off. That is your lifestyle, your foods, your nutrients. Those are the things that actually makes the genes very healthy or modestly unhealthy. So even if you have bad genes, you can still alter many of that to the positive. And, you know, I think that 80% of our future is determined by one thing. That's your blood chemistry. Not the chemistry you get at the blood work at your usual physical, because that's only looking at a small parameters called CBC, CMP. What we want and need are much bigger views and take a lens stepping back of what creates fast aging. And a lot of those are never checked because insurance won't pay. So you have options to determine this yourself and empower yourself by coming to places that may do that, which is rare. But at Nutrition World, we have Be Well Labs, which you can do, come in fasting, and you can do these kind of blood works. And then you can actually take hold of your future health by knowledge. And, you know, if you think about the front end alignment of your car, when it's aligned properly, you may get 40,000 miles out of tires, but when it's not, it may be cut easily in half. Well, that's the same with your blood chemistry. If your inflammation's too high, your insulin is not sensitive, you have certain parameters of special cholesterols that's not even being checked today, thick blood, all these things can create that poor front end alignment that then is going to create disease. And, you know, I really feel that personally I've come full circle because I've been doing this for 44 years now. And part of my real journey in life has been the ability to connect dots, I do believe. So I've watched tens of thousands of people tell me their stories, what they ate, how they slept, some of their emotions, their exercise, a lot of their big parts of their life as we continued to watch them year after decade. And I've seen people who've maintained health. I've seen people who've been very poor health that brought it back up, and others, many who have passed away, probably prematurely on many of those. And I've kind of put together like, okay, this worked on these people, these didn't work on those. And that kind of gives me, I think, a perspective that you never can get out of just a textbook. I've gone around so far that I love the quote by Mark Twain. It is not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It is what we know that just ain't so. And you know, I've been through a lot of just ain't so's with my nutrients, my diets, my exercise, and I have gone around the block hundreds of times. Part of that can help you, I hope. And in fact, back in the 80s, I went to people's houses because I was then into one of my many 500 different avenues, and that one was called macrobiotic diet. A macrobiotic diet was used to treat terminal diseases. And I would teach people how to cook. And we had these exact rules that you can only stir rice counterclockwise, because if you stir it clockwise, it's going to change the energy and it won't allow healing. Do I really recommend that now? Of course not. But all these steps led me into more and more convincing of the things that do work. And so my first revelation is, which is something that I had to change, and I'll grasp onto it so hard for decades, is healthy, nutritionally dense foods are not your answer. What? You mean eating tons of organic fruit and vegetables won't keep us alive a lot longer? I truly don't believe that anymore. It's second most important is eating those foods, but the very first is, what does it take to create optimal blood chemistry? Not in the reference ranges, but in that very narrow superstar status of how do we slow aging? And you do that through what I call macros. Macros are the protein, fats, and carbs that are found in foods. Those, to me, will build your optimal life, or they will be your demise. I don't care how much organic food and how many nutrients is in a food. It's the macros that cause the damage to the mitochondrial, the insulin, the inflammation, the blood thickness. And again, macros are protein, fats, and carbs. So this is going to try to make it very simple as I can with a kind of complex subject. So eating breakfast, lunch, supper, and your snacks need to contain the right ratios of these macros. What do I do when I eat my big meals or any meals? First off, one easy tip is, if you have protein that's about the size of your fist, try to eat carbs that are no bigger than your other fist. That generally will get you in a decent ratio, because too many carbs is the demise of your blood. We are addicted to carbohydrates. From Starbucks down to your grandmother's house, to Christmas, to going to any fast food place, that is your demise. And so if we can do that protein carb visually, it's a big step in the right direction. And I add healthy fat to every meal. What are healthy fats? If you can eat nuts, they are. I can't, except for macadamia nuts, but butter, ghee, olive oil, avocado, coconut oil. I take olive oil with me to most lunches and many suppers, because I'll use 1 tablespoon, as I did today, on my broccoli and on my coleslaw, and I had a hamburger patty, so I put it on my 2 vegetables, because we got to have healthy fat. But if you want to look these things up, found a great app. It's called Nutrition IX. I like the letter I, and X, Nutrition IX. It's so simple. Just looked up Taco Bell bean burrito. It has 49 carbs in it, a little bit higher than I thought. But these are great to try to put together your carb, protein, and fat ratios. Protein, I am convinced now, which I wasn't before, that we need 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or a little less, but a little is the right word. As we age, we need these amino acids to rebuild our memory, our brain, our physical structure, keep the muscles intact, because muscle loss and bone loss is one of the big ravages of aging. And then about 60 to 90 carbs Monday through Friday. And then I do 100 to 150 on weekends. Those will keep things in check far better, because, again, 1 bean burrito is 50 carbs. But on weekends, you got all the way up to 150. And that makes it much easier for you to handle. And the last tip that I think has changed my chemistry probably more than any one thing, which is, we have to have simpleness in our life sometimes, because we all mostly live very busy lives, is I drink my breakfast 6 days a week, and I just eat on Sundays a regular breakfast of eggs and whatever. And if I do eat the eggs and the meats, I do it from Nutrition World, or I do it from a health food store where we have more pure foods, not just the low quality ones found at most markets. But my drink, and I've gone through many over the years, I usually stick with them for 1 to 2 years, and then something better may come out. It's made by a company called Bucked Up, and it's a keto drink. And then I add 1 tablespoon of MCT oil. MCT oil burns body fat, keeps the brain functioning at optimal levels. Can't do too much or you get a loose stool. And I put it in cold water, use a shaker. The days that I don't do this, I never have quite the energy. I do this about 3:15 in the morning every day. I go to the gym, work out, and then I will have maybe a small snack afterwards to get me to lunch. But this kind of drink, you can do it in 4 minutes. If you have to think about, protein here, low carb for breakfast, healthy fat, you're going to get beat down by that every day because it's just too much when you're getting up. I don't care what time you get up. Let's make it simple. So if you can't do the foods, and you can look it up on that app I talked, but if you don't want to do that for breakfast, at least do this drink. That will get you 40% to the goal of helping your blood chemistry. So hopefully I can empower you and everyone and myself along this journey. Life is fleeting, people. Let's empower ourselves as fast as we can. Thank you.